What could possibly go wrong when a domesticated chimp contracts rabies on an isolated island with no escape? It's time to discuss Primate.
I'm Timmy Fland, film expert.
And I'm Leigh Livingstone, entertainment journalist.
And we love to talk all things movies. All right, friends, in Primate, a group of friends' tropical vacation turns into a terrifying primal tale of horror and survival.
Primate is directed by Johannes Roberts from a screenplay by Roberts and Ernest Riera.
Primate stars Johnny Sequoia, Jessica Alexander, Victoria Wyant, Gia Hunter, Benjamin Chang, and Troy Kotzer.
Where do we start with this film, Tim? That we saw quite a while ago, actually.
We saw months and months ago at time of recording.
Months ago. The premise is simple, I guess. A family's adopted chimpanzee, as you do, named Ben, contracts rabies and turns violent, turning what should have been a tropical weekend at home from school into a brutal, bloody fight for survival. Poor Ben.
Poor Ben the chimp. Now, look, you got to go in with an open mind with this film because the headlines are it's devoid of any real character development or subtext or really much else than a pure like crowd pleasing gory romp, which I think young teenage audiences will absolutely lap up when it's released in January here, right?
Yeah, if you're looking for character motivation and backstories, just don't bother.
Exactly.
The story mostly functions as a vehicle to trigger the horror set pieces, and it's keen to get to the carnage. We immediately get an in media res opening where, it starts with the action and then we go back in time and somebody's face gets ripped off basically from the very opening moments.
Exactly. So it sets the precedent of what is to come in terms of the gore and violence and that sort of experience that you will have with this chimp in the latter half of the film. Someone's face literally gets ripped off. So you're like, right, okay, we're here now.
This is what's happening.
Buckle up. This is what's happening.
In that sense, the film leans very heavily into being a throwback to those old school animal attack films, something like Cujo, for example. I don't know if these films work anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like just the empathy for animals that I hope we mostly have now, especially for me personally, I just found it heartbreaking instead of scary. Like the gore hit really hard. The gore was very effective and we'll talk about the practical effects because they were very good. But when you're thinking of this chimpanzee as a family member and then all of a sudden we're supposed to be terrified and want him dead, it just doesn't land with me.
Yeah, because the chimp is set up as, like you said, one of the kids.
Yeah, and they really go hard with that in the beginning.
Yeah. And they communicate with each other. There's this is what's actually quite smart about the film is how they involve sign language into the life of the film. The father is a deaf actor as well, and he is a deaf character. And then that's how they communicate with the chimp and using some sort of like technology tablet where he presses buttons that say words. Like it makes you feel like, oh my God, this is such a lovely family unit. They've always grown up with Ben and they can communicate with one another.
And I guess that's on purpose because then it is meant to make it scarier that they trust this family member not to hurt them, and then all of a sudden he's losing the plot and going crazy and the sight of water has turned him
which
nuts. I wonder if that's a real thing with rabies.
With rabies, so they set up this thing, I think it's through text at the beginning of the film, that rabies fucks with it, like infests your brain, right? And you become violent. And, obviously this chimp doesn't really recognize or know where he is anymore, doesn't recognize his loved ones. And the sight of water makes them go fucking insane. And of course, it's this film set in Hawaii with the ocean, and there's this beautiful infinity pool where they spend majority of the film trapped in because, it's just crazy.
And that's very effective as a set piece, actually, the pool, because it keeps them locked in like this kind of cage scenario where they can't.
Yeah.
And the monkey has to try and figure out how to get to them without going near the water because he's scared of the water.
Because he's scared of the water. It sends him crazy. There is one, in terms of like the setup, there's a few things that, again, like I have to get over it, but it was very frustrating. But
the tropes, the old school like horror tropes where you're like, don't go up the stairs and don't do that. Don't lock yourself in a cupboard. Don't.
All that shit. But specifically before it leans into that is Lucy's bringing like college friends over to her house, and she fails to tell her friend that there's a chimp in the house. and I'm like, I think just out of common courtesy, just by the way, we live with a caged wild animal.
Actually, I think the one who had the issue with the monkey and was a bit nervous about it was a friend of a friend. Do you know what I mean? Like her bestie knew about the monkey.
Okay.
And it was the bestie who brought along this really insufferable other person. Actually, most of the characters in this film are quite insufferable. And that is a really frustrating aspect because and again, I feel like they've done that on purpose. It's a creative choice because then you want them to meet their demise.
Yeah.
It also makes it less enjoyable to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was rolling my eyes so hard when these two male character dude bros turn up.
Oh my God, how frustrating was that?
So annoying.
It's these dudes that they meet on the plane and they like kind of like the look of each other. Like it's purely this sort of, oh, they're hot. Let's, hang out with them while we're on this vacation. And then while they're literally all being like murdered by this chimp, they call these guys and they're off their face and they end up showing up at the house later on.
It's just so far-fetched though. It is so far-fetched because they're literally screaming and, as you said, being killed on the phone and the dudes are like, wow, sounds like a great party. Ooh. Like, far out.
How dumb can dude bros be? About as dumb as they show up in Primate. Yeah. That's the answer.
And I feel like they're really leaning into the silliness of that on purpose. But again, like it's like you got to walk that line a little bit because otherwise your audience just switches off and goes, I hate this, which is what I did.
But they do. Yeah. I switched off and was just like, just rip someone else's face off and I'll clap. That's where I was at this point. But
I'll clap like a monkey.
Yeah. I had the clapping monkey like Homer did in the head while I was watching this movie. But there's a moment where the characters are trapped in the pool like we referenced before and they cannot escape to safety, right? And their house is etched, just to give you an idea, it's etched into like a Hawaiian island cliff, right? They overlook this gorgeous ocean. Yeah. And they scream for help into the void of the ocean. Like there's no neighbors near them. It's like, why would you bother, mate? Like no one can hear you. They're just dumb shit like that happened in this movie that I'm like, what are you doing?
And most of the time I was just going, poor monkey. It's not his fault he got bitten by a mongoose.
I agree. Yes, a rabid mongoose. That's how it all kicks off, friends. So watch out for those mongai.
Yeah, I guess the film really prioritizes the horror and the violence rather than any kind of psychological depth. But I will say, just with the father and being deaf, they use silence to great effect towards the last part of the film. It adds this whole element where you're like, look behind you. And he's just like casually walking around the house having no idea what's going on.
That is deeply, deeply effective. And I was kind of waiting for those moments to happen and they really do add to the tension and the experience because things are really coming to a head at that point and it just pulls you out but also right in there at the same time. Very effective.
Let's talk about the characters. Johnny Sequoia as Lucy, who is our final girl, if you will. She delivers that great energy to the character, exactly what you want in the trope. Again, thinly drawn though. The characters are just very thinly drawn.
Yeah, there's not really a great deal to add about these characters for the exact statement you just made.
I just literally wrote in capital letters, insufferable. Not Johnny Sequoia. Yeah. She was quite good actually. The sisters were quite good, but everyone else around them, I was just like, ugh.
I think you picked up that I was confused earlier because I struggled to differentiate who was who in this film and in what relations they had with others due to the poor setup of said relations and names. I didn't know anyone's names in this movie.
They all looked like Gen Z white girls, same.
Absolutely. The only relationship that was really clear was the father and the two daughters because there was a bit of conflict and estrangement there and they lent into that from time to time. But God knows who any of the other people were in this movie at all. I could not tell you. A friend of a friend, someone had the hots for one of the other boys. I don't know. It was all a bit unclear to me.
All of the characters are very disposable and underwritten. They exist just to be hunted or killed and for these great horror set pieces, which are very effective. But I mean, how effective can it be if you don't really care about them? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think you said an interesting thing earlier where, yes, you don't care about them so you don't feel anything when they die, but you also are just excited for their demise because they are a bit insufferable and annoying. You're like, you're like, oh, that was a good kill for that character. I feel satisfied.
I cared more about the monkey than I did about anyone in this film.
I agree. It was just really uncomfortable to watch at times, which I think leans into the really, really effective way that the chimp showed up on screen with the marriage of CGI effects and the puppetry. It was absolutely incredible.
I will give it good practical effects, definitely. But the film works best when it leans into that gore and mayhem and the monkey and the face ripping and the skull smashing, and it's gleefully over the top.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but Ben seems almost real.
I would say there were times where I couldn't tell whether we were looking at Ben as a computer-generated version or as a puppet, and it was deeply effective and unsettling. He did feel very, very real and part of the family in the space, majority of the time for sure.
Creature feature. That is the big headline for this. It is a throwback creature feature. Doesn't always commit to any kind of internal logic.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's absurd. Sometimes it's slasher style horror, which, is a bit absurd. Like, you got to have a bit of that campiness and a bit of that fun with horror. That's part of the genre.
Yeah.
When it goes too far in one direction, you start to fall out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a scene where there's some characters hiding in a closet and the chimp basically sits on their fucking lap, and I have no idea how he didn't see them in the closet. Or
smell them. Like, surely a monkey has some kind of sense of smell. It's an animal.
Yeah. So the absence of logic and like trying to make you believe that a scenario plays out as it does is a bit like, oh, come on, you're treating us like fools. But you know how I feel about spatial awareness. I talk ad nauseum about that on the pod. I found it almost impossible to know where I was in the house because they didn't set up as such a huge character that this house is, because that's where 95% of the action takes place. I didn't believe that certain characters walking through certain sections wouldn't have seen the dead body on the stairs or they couldn't hear them screaming. Like, they're just there, right? Surely. I was very disorientated in this
It's a very soundproof house.
With open fucking doors and shit. So,
and that wardrobe was like Narnia, man.
It was enormous. Oh dear.
So the strengths in the film, just to summarize it a little bit.
Totally.
Gore, set design, not spatial awareness, creature effects, all tick, 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 tick.
Yeah.
It's effective when it wants to be.
Absolutely. And that use of silence that you called out beautifully before is a really impactful moment in the movie. So you add up those things and you have a really good time, but you just have to suspend all logic, no character development, no real care or connection to anything. Just go in for the fun of it, really.
I just think it was a mistake to make the monkey so beloved and part of, I understand why they did it. I said before, I understand why they did it, because you have to be heartbroken and you have to be like, oh, how can this family members be suddenly turning on them? But I just kept thinking it's not his fault. Like,
it's not his fault. The damn mongoose.
Yeah. And it was just bizarre to me how quickly they turned on him.
Yeah, they didn't try to understand. I mean, I don't know. What would you do in that situation? Hopefully I never find myself in anything like that.
No, I guess it's true. But I can't ever imagine that, a character that's been a family member for years and years and years and years, you don't all of a sudden go, kill it, kill it, kill it.
Exactly. So, that's a hard pill to swallow. You're right in that sense.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen some more character development around that, where they come to that decision reluctantly.
Yes, I agree.
It just didn't work for me. Shall we wrap up our review of Primate?
Yeah, let's do it, my friend.
Primate has all the hallmarks of a brutal, gory creature feature throwback, updated for modern audiences. Although it didn't land with me, I still can't decide if it's good, bad, or just plain bad. Fans of this kind of animal-driven horror where a rabid animal attacks silly teenagers will eat it up like a mongoose nibbling on monkey flesh.
All right, Primate is full of gory goodness, but not much else. It's a fun but frustrating watch if you struggle to surrender to characters who remain void of development or smarts. Contained to a single location, there isn't even any discovery of the space, which adds to its disorientating cinematography and editing. But go for the violence and impressive chimp practical effects.
There you have it, friends.
Primate is in Australian cinemas from Jan 22nd.
Do you want to see it? I don't know. Do you? Is that your kind of thing? Is that your bag, baby?
If it is your bag, baby, let us know. We'd love to hear what you think of Primate. As always, friends, it's always a pleasure and a privilege to have you join us.
We'll catch you next time.
Did you know we're on YouTube, where you will find our latest celebrity video interviews? Simply search Popcorn Podcast with Leigh and Tim and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the fun.